But Kevin, now it's time to hit social media for cash tags. And for that, we're going to bring in Andy Swan. He's a co-founder of LikeFolio.com. And we're taking a look at cannabis stocks today, Andy. This is a big name in the trading industry recently. Good morning. And what are you guys seeing from LikeFolio on these cannabis stocks and CBD?
One of the things that stuck out to us was that people tend to talk about the generic terms a lot more than any name brands. And so one of the first, kind of research portions that we did was to look at the trend in CBD, which is kind of like cannabis oil, but without the high. And you can see this on this chart. This is purchase intent mentioned. So people talking about buying CBD products, whether those are oils that are applied to the skin or infused in foods or whatever it is. And you can see this is just a total hockey stick type of graph. This is the type of thing that startups normally show to potential investors as their plan moving forward, but it looks like the reality for CBD. And you can see why so many investors and so many companies are chasing this trend. It's just an unbelievable growth curve. I think today we just saw, or this week we saw Tilray closing an acquisition of Manitoba Harvest, which makes one of my favorite brands. It's called Hemp Bliss Milk. So we're putting this stuff in everything now, it seems like, and the chart is there to stay. I think investors are trying to figure out which companies are going to be the winners and the losers out of this.
All right, calm the enthusiasm there, Panama Red. Let's do some business here. Now, here's my question. Is any part of this CBD that you're talking about, is there a legal aspect of this, or is this considered legal in every state where some isn't? What's the legal discussion that we should be having here?
Well, generally, this is legal because this CBD is the cannabis oil, but minus the high, so minus the effects on the brain.
Okay.
The FDA has issued some guidance in the last little bit saying, look, if you're using this to say it cures any disease or any illness, then you're going to be in trouble and you're going to fall under our guidance. But for the most part, what people are talking about is how CBD can help with joint pain, anxiety, those sorts of things. And so they don't fall under any FDA regulation, and it's not an illegal product in any state.
Yeah, it doesn't have the THC component of cannabis, which is why it's generally legal. But I always look at it this way. I think they said the same things about Coca-Cola when it came out as a soft drink back in the 1800s. So what to wait and see on that. I want to see some studies before I start putting that.
I think you know a little bit too much about this.
I do not know
that's a further discussion
anything at all. But for more on social media, let's bring in TD Ameritrade Network's own Jenny Horn. Good morning, Jenny.
Good morning, guys.
All right, so we're talking CBDs, we're talking cannabis stocks. They're really popular as far as a trading vehicle. They're really popular as far as tweets out.
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, CBD has been around for a while, but it's become marketed so well that it's in everything now. Like Andy just mentioned, it's in cat food, it's in lip balm, it's in lotion, it's in everything. And I think milk, which is bizarre, but I think companies are doing a really good job of then marketing this because people use it for anti-anxiety, to sleep, for stomach pain. So it's kind of become this whole holistic idea that people really love.
Did you see a tweet that said that they did studies and does do all this stuff?
Well, those
are just claims.
That's just the hype on social media that it's fixing all these ailments. But our first tweet is from Christopher Hayek, who says, "Nice shakeout in the handle. Tilray reports Monday." So focus on Tilray. They have earnings coming up. What are you watching ahead of this stock? I mean, it's a little bit of like a Bitcoin where it's all over the place. It's volatile. So what are you guys watching?
Yeah, it's really consolidated. But Andy, did you guys have any data on Tilray in particular as far as LikeFolio data?
Yeah, so this is a little different than what we normally produce. So this is not consumer insights. This is actual investor mentions of the stock Tilray. And you can see in the blue lines are how much people are talking about the actual stock. And you can see last fall was just an absolute kind of, like Jenny said, kind of like a Bitcoin kind of crypto spike in terms of the interest level. It tracked really well with the stock price. And now we've kind of based out in the stock, and less people are talking about it. It's pretty flatlined. So, it's one of those kind of rare opportunities, I think, for people to take a look at something after the, after the kind of buzz or our hype cycle has kind of passed. And then when you combine that with what's going on with CBD, it just becomes an interesting idea to start looking at again, because you're not so much participating in a hype cycle while it's going on. So that's why we like to look at these cash tag mentions. We can see we're far from where we were in terms of investor hype.
Yeah, that stock spiked to $300 on that day that you see there last fall. But I think you look in the space, whether it's ACB, Aurora Cannabis, Kronos, CGC, the partnerships that they're creating between legitimate entities tells you that growth is there for this particular sector. But I know you have another tweet, Jenny.
I do, and I have to say on that note, the noise on social media, if you just search CBD oil versus any of those different company tickers, I mean, you can't even compare. People just love to talk about CBD.
It's bananas across the board.
It is. It's wild. So our next tweet is from Ryan Switzer, who says, is CBD oil good for you? Any of my fellow athlete friends use it. Beneficial? So now even professional athletes are getting into the CBD space, which just seems like sky's the limit a little bit.
Yeah, and the promotion of the CBD oil by legitimate athletes coming out and saying that, does that actually, Andy, do you see that in your data where it actually helps this sector or the individual names that are creating it?
Sure, it's always good to have influencers talk about a product, but I think Jenny brings up like a really good point and is consistent in our data. People are talking about CBD oil, they're talking about cannabis, or they're talking about marijuana. They're not talking about specific brands and products that much. So these companies have a really long way to go in terms of brand recognition, taking shelf space and distribution, and that leaves the door open for the Coca-Colas of the world or some of these other companies that may have been a little slow in getting on the bandwagon to come in and just dominate the space. So there's a high level of risk with any of these smaller companies getting into the game because they are not creating really any type of brand recognition or any type of moat around their products.
Yeah, and we've got Constellation Brands investing in it, Altria investing in cannabis stocks, and then Nelson Peltz yesterday from Trian Advisors came in with Aurora Cannabis. That's why we saw the stock up 14% yesterday. So there's legitimizing these products, I think,
right.
And that's key moving forward as far as regulatory hurdles here in the U.S.
And some of these companies are doing it for a hedge perspective, like some of the alcohol companies.
Yep, exactly. Constellation Brands, perfect example, Kevin. But we do have a special tweet, right, Jenny?
Yes,
that we
because
thought
I had
was,
some fun
We
today.
can't be 100% serious.
I know.
Go ahead.
We're talking.
There he is.
There it is.
Look at little Sparky.
Yeah, so this is our last tweet, my favorite of all of them. So from David, he says, I started my dog on CBD oil for arthritis yesterday. Now she's too cool for school and ordered a bunch of Pink Floyd CDs off Amazon last night while I was sleeping. So again, I mean, CBD oil is a fun conversation.
It is.
We can't go to have this conversation without getting a little silly with it.
Yeah, and that dog does look pretty happy. So.
Yeah, it's got shades on. Who would be
You can't
happy?
stop laughing. I don't know why
CBD
it
oil
is.
for pets, it's a thing.